of the Comic-Con experience has always been music and has always been television. And it all comes together in one thing.
I'm a comic book geek, nerd. Besides my mother and father in school, life as a kid was miserable. But comic books just took me to a place where I was powerful.
I grew up reading a lot of comics. I still love Batman. He's kind of my dude. And anything Detective Comics is really good right now.
Growing up, the Infinity Gauntlet was like my favorite short series. But that got me into like comics in a serious way.
Me, my favorite of all time is the Daredevil Visionary series that Kevin Smith wrote. I just think that's fantastic. Batman, I have a lot of Batman comics. Any of the Grant Morrison Batman stories I think are just great.
I'm obsessed with Mad Max.
I was a big fan of the 70s Star Trek comics and old sci-fi. That stuff's cool.
Rick and Morty is the best show on television.
I loved Frank Miller's stuff, the simplicity of it, the boxiness of it. I loved his Batman, I loved his Daredevil. His stuff was really formative for me. There's a real grit to it.
I played in the band Say Anything for a while, and Max, their singer, writes comics and also has like a library in his house. This guy Jeff Lemire, I really like everything he does. He does his illustrations as well, which I think is like 70% of what I love so much about him.
I have a pretty lavish Richie Rich comic book collection at home.
I recently saw the trailer for the Deadpool movie, and I think that's just going to be great. Like the character himself is real snarky, and I like that. Yeah.
I would like to see Moon Knight. I would. I mean, I didn't see the new Fantastic Four. I would really like to see that done, sort of in the a la fashion of the First Class X-Men, but in a retro sort of fashion. Like, basically redo Fantastic Four #1, the cover. You know what I mean? Like, just make it look like that.
I like it all, you know. I thought Tom Hardy as Bane was incredible, you know, so I'm not that excited for Ben Affleck, but I know some people are.
Marvel connected with me though, because Stan Lee has superheroes running around New York City. Marvel comic books taught me about places in New York that were real that I couldn't go to because I was a kid.
Probably, I think maybe like 11, 12, 10 or 11, 12, something like that. But I remember walking in and picking up Spawn #1, and just the artwork just literally blew my mind. I could not believe how cool Todd McFarlane could draw and how over the top it was, like intestines spilling out and just crazy stuff that you just didn't see in so many other books. Really, I've been drawing my whole life since I was a kid, and even before things with the band worked out, I always assumed I would either be an animator or a comic book artist. Being in a band, there's lots of downtime. I was always sitting in hotels and planes and this and that, so I decided to really get back into drawing. And I wanted to get into comics, so I approached IDW 5 or 6 years ago with a pitch for my own book. So I drew a couple characters and gave them a short synopsis of the story. And they liked it and let me make a comic book. IDW got the Ninja Turtle license, so I was kind of had it in, and I was just, let me draw turtles please so my son will think I'm cool. And I got to do one variant cover and just kept kind of poking away at the editor and asking when I could get in, and now I'm working on my 6th book for the Turtles right now.
My name is Bryan Ewing, and I've been a full-time freelance illustrator for 13 years now. I started out just doing rock posters. I didn't realize I could make money doing that, and then people started paying me, and so I quit my day job. Like, at the time, I didn't realize I made my own job. Like, it didn't exist, so I made it up, and I made it work. I had a lot of friends in bands, and I wanted to be a part of all that, so I would do flyers for my friends, and it got around really quickly, and so other bands started asking me to do it for them as well. Back in the day, like reading zines and going to record stores, and you'd see rock posters there all the time for people like Frank Kozik or Coop or Derek Hess, and I always wanted to do that. I just didn't know it was possible. So that had a huge influence on me. So did skateboard art, which then turned into album art and t-shirt art. So guys like Derek Riggs or Ed Repka, like guys who would do like metal covers and stuff like that, like all that stuff I saw as a kid, and I really wanted to do it all. And I tried to find a way to like bring it all together and take all the influences and try to make it my own.
I really try to like respect both jobs. When it's time to get on stage, I like to put everything away for like an hour and pick up my guitar and like kind of just get warmed up for the show. Because if I'm drawing up until the point where I have to get on stage, it definitely takes a minute for my mind to flip over. Depending on what I'm drawing, whether it's a soundtrack. I just put out a kid's book recently. This sort of like a spooky Tim Burton, Dr. Seuss kind of vibe. So I listened to a lot of like Danny Elfman soundtracks when I was trying to come up with characters. But sometimes there's just a new album out that I'm really into, and that's what I want to listen to at that time.
I recently just did some posters for the Foo Fighters. So for like 2 weeks straight, I just listened to the Foo Fighters. The same thing with Weezer. Like when I did a project for them, I just listened to that nonstop because I just wanted to make sure like everything I was doing, one of their fans would realize like, oh, this is referencing this or that. So yeah, when I do work for certain bands, I try to do that. There's a guy named John Dyer Baisley, and he's in a band called Baroness, and I really like his style. So no matter what he does for whatever band, I'll just buy it, just because I want this big piece of artwork.
I mean, of course I love when Todd McFarlane did the Korn album. I thought that was super cool. Korn was one of my favorite bands as a kid, and Todd McFarlane being one of my favorite artists, that was pretty cool when that happened.
I didn't want to just be another rapper because I had a hit record trying to do something else, you know, stay in your lane, whatever. You know, my music was like a real life comic book. My music allowed me to become one of the hip hop superheroes.